People really do forget what the Brexiteers were up to, or at least what the Brexiteers were saying, obviously back in 2016, and how it has morphed over this time to really where we are now. And we even said it back then, no form of Brexit is going to be good enough for them. It doesn't matter how pure a Brexit they seem to say they get now, just won't be good enough 3 to 6 months later, because it's never good enough. There will always be something to complain about. That is what they are. They pitch themselves as the eternal victims. Like any fundamentalist group, after in any revolution you can picture, there is always this fundamentalist group that keep on pushing to have the next big thing. One minute they're in favor of this, but no, next minute they have to go further, and they have to go further, and they have to go further. And the worst thing that has happened is that there has been no pushback. Now, I think it will come eventually, because as we've said, the seeds have been planted for a civil war, not only just to describe the future and the direction of the Tory party itself, but also the direction that the Tory party wants to take the UK, because there is a very clear split. You have the more right-wing moderates in the party, who are, again, very much sort of the Remain side of the argument of sort of remaining in the EU, and then those who wanted to leave. And they were always right-wing libertarians. And that libertarian dream is to basically fulfill full market deregulation. The government should have nothing to do with any regulation whatsoever. That is why they were so desperate to get out of the EU. That is why they are so desperate to try and get as much of EU regulation out as possible. And now this new attempt to get rid of the protocol is just new parts of them pushing to try and get to a no-deal scenario. Parliament blocked them with a rule basically saying the UK cannot leave under a no deal. But if they can force one in a different way, that's fine for them. And this is what we have to worry about going into a no-deal scenario. We always said, even back in the day, just how bad a no-deal really was. And again, just go back and look at my videos we made about what a no-deal would mean for the UK. But of course, this could very well be once again coming up to another election where Boris Johnson might try to run another Brexit election. Hey, let's get Brexit done, but this time properly. And again, it'll be foolish for him, I think, to try. But hey, if it worked once, it might work again. At least that might certainly be his thinking. But of course, before we do go jumping in this article, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and a donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help support the channel that way. So, on with this. This comes from iNews with the title of Boris Johnson's plan to override the Northern Ireland Brexit deal could lead to a no-deal cliff edge scenario at the next election. And that is what it sure is looking like at the moment. The UK plans to they are currently at the moment, to override parts of the Brexit deal in Northern Ireland could leave Boris Johnson facing another no-deal cliff edge scenario at the next general election, an EU diplomat has told the Eye. The EU said that it would use all measures at its disposal if the government tries to proceed with its legislation it announced on Tuesday by Liz Truss that would allow the UK to set aside parts of the Northern Ireland Protocol, and moves Brussels would breach the international law. And it would, because under this agreement, one side cannot unilaterally act without the other. You know, this is the whole deal is designed with negotiation for both sides to work together. Even the EU has said, yes, there are currently problems, so let's sit down at the table and negotiate with these problems. They've already brought some solutions it wants to negotiate with the UK. And if you watched Liz Truss's speech yesterday, you would get the impression that the EU has sort of offered nothing to the UK, but it hasn't. There's a raft of proposals it has offered, but Liz Truss and certainly his current government just do not want to sit down and negotiate. So, One EU diplomat told the Eye the nuclear option of a trade war would be Brussels' final stage of a triple-pronged response, which could also see legal action and the UK barred from cross-border cooperation, including the Horizon 2030 Research and Innovation Programme and even membership of the European University Institute. The EU would also likely wait until legislation comes into force, which it will take around at least a year, according to UK officials, before launching the measures to suspend parts of the Brexit trade and impose tariffs on British exports. It could leave the Prime Minister facing the threat of a trade war in a run-up to the next election, expected around May of 2024. Saying, if you look at the timings, we could easily end up in the middle of the next general election in the UK with an ongoing trade war, an EU source said. We could go from practically the current deals to no deal. I don't think anyone wants that. Well, he's wrong. The Brexiteers in Parliament certainly do want that. That's been their dream since the start. In the Commons, Miss Truss said that it was the government's intention to reach a negotiated solution with the EU, but insisted that the protocol could not continue in its current guise. But she refused to actually set out how the proposed legislation will avoid breaking international law by overriding an international treaty signed a little over just 2 years ago by Mr. Johnson. Such deals will be published in due course, she told the Commons. Ms. Truss did claim that the bill will put in place the necessary measures to lessen the burden on the East-West trade and will ensure that the people of Northern Ireland are able to access the same benefits as the people of Great Britain. The announcement was immediately attacked by senior Tory backbenchers who warned the Foreign Secretary against breaking international law. Simon Hall, the Tory chair of the Northern Ireland Committee, told MPs the duty of the government is to uphold the law. If it tries to bob, weave, and duck around the duty when it's inconvenient, and if the government does that, then so will the governed. And then nothing is safe. Not home, not liberty, not life itself. Not my words, but Margaret Thatcher's. Respect for the rule of law runs deep in our Tory veins. I find it extraordinary that a Tory government needs to be reminded of that, he added. Damien Green, the former First Secretary of State and Minister for the Cabinet Office, did raise fears that the protocol would be torn up by the government. Can I ask Mrs. Truss to ensure that some consistency in the government messaging while the negotiations are going on, and that an actually negotiated settlement would be preferable, he said. The Tory chair of the Justice Committee, Bob Neill, warned that it was important, not just in terms of overall objectives, but in overall terms of the United Kingdom's international reputation, to stick to the UK's legal obligations. Ms. Truss then added that she will meet with the European Commissioner, Marco Sovac, in the Northern Irish parties to discuss the details in full of the bill. The EU diplomat said that last phone call conversation between Truss and Sovac on Monday night did not go well, but stressed that Brussels was always be ready to talk. Responding to the Foreign Secretary's plan, Mr. Sovac said, should the UK decide to move ahead with a bill to disapply continuing elements of the protocol as announced today by the UK government, the EU will need to respond with all measures at its disposal. And it's like, this is where we go back to, like, the protocol works. Are there problems in the protocol? Yes. The EU even says, yes, there are problems in the protocol, but they're not grand problems that can't be solved out by negotiating. And it doesn't seem the UK government wants to negotiate. As we said before, you look at the economic terms, the Northern Ireland is certainly outperforming a lot of the other areas of the UK. Why? Because it's in the single market customs union. Businesses love it because, again, they're in the single market and customs union. The prize quote is, of course, we've got the best of both worlds. You know, it's just the DUP doing this. And if you notice, the quote from yesterday at the DUP basically said, as long as there's a border in the Irish Sea, we ain't going back. The current proposal by the government does not get rid of that border in the Irish Sea. So are they going to go back? Probably not. But who can say at this moment in time? So, but in a more positive sign for the UK's hopes for a negotiated solution, the Commission spokesperson Daniel Farry stressed that Mr. Sovak had made it clear that there is still potential to be explored in proposals to change the protocol tabled by the EU later the year that will not take it, take it or leave it. There was also, again, early signs that the government's move may have also paved the way for the DUP to try and renege in its discussions over power sharing in the Northern Ireland Assembly based on the progress of the legislation. The DUP's re-entry into the Northern Ireland Executive could indeed set the stage for the UK and the EU to try and compromise. But responding to the announcement, the DUP leader, Sir Geoffrey Donaldson, said his party would take a graduated response to the proposals. Sir Geoffrey said the statement was, quote, overdue, but added that it was a significant move towards trying to address the problems created by the protocol, getting power sharing based across cross-party community consensus up and running again. Therefore, we hope to see progress on the bill in order to try and deal with these matters in days and weeks, not months. As the legislation progresses, we will take a graduated and cautious approach, he added. Again, they're talking about that bill, specifically that bill. If a negotiated settlement happens between then and now, will the DUP go for it? We don't know. This is it. We just really do not know what's going to happen here. I even can't predict what's going to happen here. But my prediction is, if you really put me on the spot, is the DUP just aren't going to go for anything unless this bill gets passed. And certainly, while there is, again, the EU said, hey, we've got all these proposals, we're ready to negotiate with you. You're the ones who are doing this saber rattling and all this stuff. They're the ones, it's the UK government who are trying to shake all this stuff up. It's not the EU doing this. The EU even said, we like the protocol, but we recognize there are problems. We want to try and solve those problems. It's just Liz Truss just does not want to sit down with the EU, at least without doing a bit of saber rattling, because, well, it makes her look good. And especially, she wants to try and certainly appeal to the Brexiteers when it's, what shall we say, it's her turn to come up to bat for the leadership election, which will probably maybe one pretty soon. Who knows? Again, we don't know where we might be in 3 to 6 months' time. It's fun. It's fun to say the least, But this is it. This is the frustrating part, and it's just complete deja vu. This was exactly the situation that Frost had been making just a couple of months ago, and again, nothing happened. Threatening to trigger Article 16, he never did it. Will Truss actually come out with this bill? Will it get passed? That's another question, of course, because, as we said, first of all, there is going to be at least a very significant Tory rebellion on this, as we have seen, so it could get stopped in the Commons. But if it goes through to the Lords are certainly not going to let it go past. I've said before, I do not like the Lords, but I'll tell you what, I'm glad we've got them sometimes, because the Lords are certainly not going to allow any bill through that would threaten the UK's international law and international agreements that it has signed. It was very clear about that when the original bill went through there. So, fingers crossed for this one, guys, that this one gets, shall we say, killed before it even moves into maybe even to the House of Lords. But we'll have to see. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and on today's link to buy me a coffee, where you can buy me a coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help support the channel that way, even if you do hit the like and share button. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.